All right, here we are. Okay.
Don't forget. I think you got in my.
Okay, guys, welcome. We had some technical difficulty. I hope you hung around because we're back. Let me give you a moment to get up and running with me. Modern technology sometimes does not. Hey, there you go. All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Let's see what we have here. Good evening. Hey, is that Leslie from Florida? All right, Luann Williams, it's a pleasure. Yeah, I just wanted to jump right in it. We started and then had some technical difficulty. You know, this is technology, and what we're finding out is that it takes a while sometimes to weed through some of the challenges. But hey, we're here, and it's working. I want to just share a couple things with you. First of all, thank you for being on this Thursday evening, and please tell your friends. This app is incredible. Of course, there might be, here and there a couple bugs, and that's very well known. We know there are major companies that have bugs, so we're not surprised at all. But one thing that I do want to share with you is to tell your friends about the app. Hi, everybody. Hey, Reginald Kellum. Tell your friends about the app, okay? We're going to be having many more lives. We're going to be bringing in other experts to talk about serious issues and serious things that are facing you only on the Marriage Ain't for Punks app, though. You might find other interesting stuff, but not what we're going to be talking about here on the MAFB app. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and just stay tuned. We're going to advertise on social media to let you know what our schedule is. But we're so glad that you're here. And I see some familiar people are logging back in who've been with us before. I won't name too many of you. Maylin, I see you're in. And quite a few others are here also. Thank you so much for coming back. Leslie, it's good to see you as well. All right. Also, one other thing, not only do I want you to advertise, or rather, there is a possibility for you to advertise on the app also. So if you're an advertiser, if you know someone who wants to advertise on the app, look through the app, peruse through it, and you'll find out also a way that you can also advertise your products and what have you right here on the MAFB app. So please join us. Okay, tell your friends, tell your family, and peruse the app, get to know it, ask Pastor Cal. Incredible feature in the app where you can go in and ask questions. They're having some marriage issues or relationship issues or any issues. There's about 30 years of relationship work that are in that module and we'll give it to you via AI. Also, love stories. You can create love stories in the app that will send you a video of your love story after you go through the process. It is so exciting. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of resources making this app available to you and making it as easy as possible. And also, please go in and join a community. Get in there. Start a community. We're going to be starting marriage groups in different cities. So if you're in LA, you're in Florida, you're wherever, we want to start marriage groups in those cities. Start a group. Let's get people to join. Let's make this movement move. Okay, I want to talk to you about a little bit this evening about high value persons. Yes, high value people. Some years ago, I think he met an untimely death about 2 years ago, Kevin Samuels. And even though he may not have originated the term, he definitely popularized the term high value person, specifically high value men. And so I wanted to talk a little bit today about what high value looks like. And how do you know if you're a single person looking for someone? How do you find somebody who is high value? And do you, hear me out, do you in fact meet the criteria yourself? Because quite often we try to attract people that maybe we are not qualified to attract. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what it looks like. And even in your marriage, if you're in a relationship, if you're dating, or if you're in your marriage, are you involved with a high value person? And if not, how do you increase your value in a relationship? And also, if there are questions as we move along, yes, Marriage Group LA, absolutely. If there are questions as we move along, please let us know, and I'll try to answer those questions as we move forward. Okay. Now I'm going to share this with you also. You're on the app. If you're on the app, please put on a profile pic and also put in a name in your profile. So it doesn't just say MAFP user or one of those things. We can actually know who you are. And as you connect with other people on the app, they'll know who you are as well. Okay. Let's jump into it. Now, as I mentioned, some years ago, Kevin Samuels, he popularized the term high value person. And there's something that I've been noticing in the single world, and believe it or not, in the marriage world also, that there are incredibly high standards, probably in this generation, higher than ever before. When it comes to finding a mate, people have incredibly high standards. And in addition to that, even now I'm finding that in marriages, people are raising their standards. Okay? People now are not just settling for what we call the irreducible minimum, the bare minimum that you can bring to a relationship. But people are now saying, hey, I want this, I want that. I want a person here at this level. I'll give you just a few examples. I've talked to a lot of single people. You might know that from the show that I'm on. But I've talked to a lot of single people. And it always blows my mind that everybody wants the exact, absolute best they can find in a partner. No one's ever willing to settle. My woman must be 5'4", 5'5", 135 pounds. She can't have any of this or any of that. She has to have an incredibly low body count. Yes. Others, men, as far as men are concerned, it's like I need a man who makes X number of dollars. He's got to make this. He's got to be 6 feet tall. So how do you, first of all, how do you define, and someone asks what's an irreducible minimum? I'll tell you that in a second. How do you define, what you should have as in looking for a partner? And if you're in a marriage, how do I raise my partner to the standard that I desire? Or rather, how do I raise myself to that standard? Incidentally, the irreducible minimum in sociology or in psychology basically is the absolute minimum that you will give to a thing, the absolute lowest common denominator of effort that you will give. Now, let's move forward. All right. So in the realm of psychology, there are a couple things that we find out when we talk about high value people. And I'm going to define what we look at as a person who has high value. First of all, let's look at the word value. Value has to do with worth. It has to do with worth. That has to do with that thing that almost puts a price tag, be it a moral or financial or social price tag on you, and says, this is what you're worth. This is what you're worth. Now, of course, worth is always relative. It has to be measured against what you're accustomed to. Okay? A piece of art that one person might charge $1 million for might only be worth $20 for me because I don't care about art. Okay? So it's all relative. But let's look at what value is. When we talk about high value people, there are certain characteristics that high value people have. And I want to talk about that. And I really want you to dig in deep here. And I want you to get this information. And if you have questions, please ask. We'll try to answer them as we move along. Number one, if you're going to be a high value person, Whether you're looking for someone or whether you're in a relationship and now you're starting to question whether you're married to one, the first thing you have to understand is this. A high value person, number one, has self-awareness. Yes, they have self-awareness. And self-awareness in psychology is often included or related to or a clear marker of a high value person. People who have self-awareness have a deep understanding of themselves. They've taken time to work on themselves. They know their likes, they know their dislikes, they know their successes, they know their failures, they know their strengths and their challenges. High value people understand the fact that, listen, I may not be perfect, but I'm completely aware of my imperfections, and I also am aware of my strengths. Now, if you're a single person and you're looking for a high value person, the first question I have to you is, are you self-aware? Are you realistic about what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are? I'll give you an example. As a single person, if you are, y'all forgive me, I'm going to be real with you, okay? If you are a man and you're working at, a menial job, or minimum wage job, yet you want someone who is a supermodel. And believe it or not, I get this all the time. I get guys who have not really thrived yet, but they're looking for the creme de la creme of woman. Sometimes you got to be realistic with yourself. Okay? If I'm not operating at a high level of what society considers value, I have to normalize my standards. I'm not saying lower, but you got to normalize your standards, and you got to understand exactly what you can pull. Let's just be real with it. You got to understand that. You got to understand who's going to be attracted to you. And even in marriage, because what we've found a lot of times in relationships, in marriages, is that because of societal pressures, sometimes we start to change. And the person that you were married to, now you're looking at them like, well, why don't you do this? Why aren't you that way? I'm looking for somebody of greater value. But in order to have anyone of greater value, you must be very aware of yourself, and you must determine what you are bringing to the table. Don't ask of anyone else anything that you yourself cannot reasonably match. Yeah. Before I was married, I spent a lot of time single. As I shared before, no shame in my game. I'm a second timer. The first time around, it was not a great marriage. It wasn't a good marriage. Well, it was a bad marriage. And consequently, it failed. Okay. So after that, I dated for a while. And one thing I found out was that while I was single, people tended to judge you based on your income, based on this and based on that, and they did not know your intrinsic worth. And I think that what's happening in our society now is that we're not looking at intrinsic worth, we're looking at exteriors. And someone here is asking, so are we defined as high value based on jobs or occupation? Absolutely not. But as I said earlier, your self-awareness has to be in place. You have to be self-aware. You have to be aware of yourself. Are you defined by your jobs or your occupation? Well, let me change that. Sometimes you are. Yes. Let's just be real with it. Sometimes you are defined by your jobs or your occupation. My wife told me this. This is tough, though. And it took me a while to understand it. It took me a while to swallow it, but eventually I got it. She said that because I was a pastor when we met, she said that she found out on the first day that I spoke at my church, that if I was a terrible speaker, or while we were dating, if I was a terrible speaker, she said she may not have married me. And I thought that was quite shallow. I said, well, why? She said, because you're in a profession where speaking is a great part of it. And if you've chosen a profession and you're doing something that you're ineffective at, that lends to your judgment. And it tends to devalue who you think you are. And I said, wow, never thought about it that way. But she's absolutely right. So are we defined by our jobs or our occupations? Absolutely. If you have the potential to be, and a friend of mine told me this years ago, if you have the potential to be flying at 30,000 feet, but you're consistently operating at 5,000 feet and you refuse to fly higher, yes, you should be judged by your occupation. Because if you can do better, you should do better. If you can achieve higher, you should achieve higher. And it's unreasonable to expect somebody to accept you where you are when you yourself know that you can do better. So in some ways, we are defined by our occupation, because our occupation is a true sign of what we're trying to achieve and our ability to achieve it. Now, another question is, what is intrinsic worth? Your intrinsic worth is your internal value. What your heart, your compassion, how valuable are you on the inside? Not just externally, meaning not just externally, or who you are as a person, as Maylin says. Thank you. Not just externally as what you can bring to the table, but who you are. What does your heart say about you? Are you compassionate? Are you an understanding person? Are you someone who knows how to forgive? Yeah. Are you someone who abhors arguing and you rush to reconcile? Yeah. Your character. And unfortunately, these are things that are developed in your earlier years. That's why sometimes I'm really tough on parents about not pouring into their kids high value. Because these are things you learn from youth. You learn how to be an honest person. You learn how to be a kind person. You learn how to be a forgiving person. This is your intrinsic worth. This is who you are as a person. And if we judged each other based on those things, I'm here to tell you, if you do judge each other based on those things, or rather if you're looking for people based on those values, then when you connect with that person, you're going to be able to accomplish the impossible. But when you only look at the externals, those externals can leave. You can lose a job any day. Yes, you can lose your house in foreclosure. All that can happen. But if you're a person who has serious intrinsic value, you can always rebuild because you have resilience. You have empathy. And that brings us to some of our other definitions of what high value is. I said self-aware. Number 2, you're empathetic. You can feel what other people are feeling. Not just sympathy, where I said, I'm sorry that happened to you. No, but you're empathetic, meaning I'm actually standing in your shoes. And if you're with someone, or you're trying to get to know someone who cannot relate, who cannot stand in your shoes, that is a person who does not have high value. Let's just be real. One thing I hear quite often is that if you go to a restaurant and you treat the waiter like crap or the server like crap, that is a true sign that you do not know how to treat people, that you're not empathetic. If you treat people who are serving you like trash, then you have a problem with empathy. You have a problem stepping to another person's shoes and understanding someone who is not where you are. So empathy, self-awareness, empathy. Another lynch mark of a person who's high value is their resilience or their inability to quit. And women, you guys can shout out and let me know. Most women want a man who does not quit. Am I right or wrong? I'm going to wait for you to respond. Resilience is a key trait to a high value person. If you're resilient, if you bounce back, if you know how to get up every time you fall and do better, and the time between you falling is longer and longer and longer because you're learning from each time you fall. You're learning from each mistake. Now, if you're just constantly making mistakes I can't snap my fingers, so forgive me. But if you're constantly making mistakes over and over and over and you're never learning, that is not resilience. That's just complete failure. Resilience means I fail, I get up, I learn, I do better. Now, the next time I fail will not be the first time I fail. The next place I fall will not be the same place I failed the first time. I've learned from that. And I'm constantly getting better. We're talking about how to create, how to be a high value person and how to identify one. Self-awareness, empathy, resilience. Now, here's one, and I'm not going to be able to cover all this tonight. Integrity. Now, integrity has to do with your morals. It has to do with honesty. It has to do with transparency. It has to do with standing by your principles. It has to do with having something to stand on. Some people don't have anything that they stand on. And there's an old saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you can't stand for some principle, it may not be what I stand for. And here's my thing. I can respect you, even if you disagree with me, if you stand on something. I can respect you. A few weeks ago, we had we had elections, and people were standing on one side or the other. I can respect people who stand on either side, who are not waffling, who make a stand and stand there. That's principled. That's integrity. Someone asked, well, what if you're already married to someone who doesn't possess high value characteristics? Well, you have to ask yourself the question. First of all, if you're married to someone who is not self-aware, who's not empathetic, who's not resilient, they don't have integrity. First of all, you got to get into counseling immediately, because obviously these things may not have been available, may not have been there early on. Or maybe you just learned that this person does not have these characteristics. But I believe that most of us, when we do marry people from values. You might see the external, but I think most of us are looking for these things at least. But if you're married to someone who does not have integrity, first of all, if you don't have integrity, integrity is the submit to humanity, to being human. And if you do not have integrity, which is honesty and transparency and doing the right thing, if you don't have that, then I cannot trust you. And if I cannot trust you in a marriage, then I cannot trust you to protect me. I cannot trust you to be faithful to me. I cannot trust you to cover me. I cannot trust you to support me. Integrity goes a long way. So when we talk about high value people, yes, integrity is major. And if you're in a relationship and you're finding that someone is lacking these or they're changing, it requires professional help. I know I say that every time we get together, but I believe in it. I believe that some people need professional help. You got to get it if you're finding that your partner is no longer empathetic. Because that's a big deal. Your partner is no longer self-aware. They're not paying attention to themselves anymore. They're no longer resilient. They just give up. They don't have integrity. They're not honest. They're not transparent. And it sounds like a high bar, but it's not. These are simply things that every human being in a relationship should possess. Now, you're going to find out as I go through these qualities of high value, almost none of it has to do with salary. Almost none of it has to do with education. No, these are all intrinsic values. High value has to do with things on the inside. Because if your inside is on point, your external is going to be elevated. Okay? The fifth thing I'm going to share, this is going to be the last one tonight, is generosity. Most high value people understand the value of generosity. They understand the value of being generous. This is not just being generous with money or possessions. This is also being generous with your intelligence, being generous with your kindness, or being generous when it comes to how you treat people, or are you patient with people? Generosity, spans the gamut of giving. Generosity is about giving. It's about sharing of yourself. It's about, almost with empathy, giving to those who are in need. Empathy has to do with feeling for those who are in need. Generosity has to do with giving to those who are in need. If you find a stingy person, someone who is stingy, someone who is a skinflint, they won't ever get up off anything, this is a sure sign that this person is not high value. Okay? So, let's back up a little bit. I know if you guys have questions, you might just be enraptured by what I'm saying. But if you guys have questions, please let me know. Back up a little bit now. So when it comes down to single people looking for someone, because I think that social media, IG, Twitter, TikTok, what have you, has really screwed up the game, has really switched the price tags on humanity and on dating and on what we should see as valuable. Because if you're not flossing a Rolex and driving a Bentley and all this, and you're 6'2" or you got curves going out of this world, then you're not considered. That has nothing to do with high value. That's high spending. That's high income, but it's not necessarily high value. High value has to do with integrity, generosity, resilience, empathy, self-awareness. That's high value. And I want to make sure you understand that. Okay, is there a difference in how men and women should exhibit their high value qualities? Now, when I talk about this among women, some of you might think that I'm going to be a little prudish or what have you, but a high value woman, yes, there is a difference because I didn't create society. I live in it. And there is a difference because for a high value man, but there's a lot of similarities also. A high value man, first of all, how he treats people, how he shows himself in public, whether or not you can be proud of him because he's an integrous person, because he's a compassionate, a generous person, because he's a resilient person. Yes, for a woman, those same things have to exist. However, I think that, how can I say this without being too offensive? When a man is looking for a high value woman, he's not only looking for someone who exhibits these internal factors, but he also wants someone who knows when to turn it on and when to turn it off. For someone who's modest when she needs to be. For someone who knows how to handle herself in public. And I guess women look for that in men also. So there are some differences in how they exhibit, but there are also a lot of similarities. When it comes to intrinsic values, yes, that's across the board. That's reciprocal on both sides. But when it comes to the external things, yeah, there's going to be some differences. There are going to be some differences. I'm sorry, I didn't create society. It's the way it is. There's a big difference between high value and high maintenance. Absolutely. Absolutely. High value, again, is intrinsic. My son told me that he wanted to go out with somebody, a young lady he met online, and he makes a very decent salary. I mean, very decent salary, 6 figures. And they were going to go to dinner. And I'm speaking to this high maintenance and high value thing. And when they were going to go to dinner, and he said, well, you get off late. Well, maybe we could do it later. She said, okay. He said, well, and if you like, let's just do coffee so we can get to know each other. And her response was, well, coffee doesn't impress me. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. She said, coffee doesn't impress me. Now, here's the thing. Is she high value or is she high maintenance? Because a high value person, someone said she got to go, bye. Absolutely. And that's what happened. But the high value says, oh, that's so thoughtful. Thank you. Well, maybe we can do that as a preliminary step to getting to know each other. That's high value. Saying that I need to be impressed. You got to do more than that. No, that's high maintenance. Run from high maintenance. You don't deserve high maintenance, okay, until you've committed in a relationship. And then it's not high maintenance. It's you being blessed by what you both are accomplishing. And I'm going to use a personal example here. Is my wife high maintenance? Well, there are some things that she deserves because we've built a lot together. So is it high maintenance? No, it's not high maintenance. There's some things that she likes. She likes things, and that's fine. But if she's expecting and not returning anything, then that's ridiculous. That is high maintenance. But it's only high maintenance if you're not returning. First of all, you didn't have a hand in building it. And secondly, if you're not returning anything of equal value. Okay. All right. Guys, our time is up. She might be bougie, though. Oh, yeah, she is bougie. That was my wife signing in. She is bougie. But it's okay. It's okay. Because, and let me tell you why that's okay. Because there was a time when we both struggled together in the marriage. And we both understood, right? And no one was getting anything of any value because we understood what we needed to do to get to where we are now, to get to where we need to be and where we're going. So I don't mind you being high value after you've struggled with me to get what we have. But don't come to me not knowing me saying that I got to maintain you. That won't work. Make sense? All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining in tonight. I'm going to meet again. We're going to come back again because I have to finish this high value thing. And I want you to please tell your friends about it. And if you have questions about questions about things we want to talk about or subjects, please hit me up inside the app. Go to the marriage group, join the marriage group under communities and talk about some of the topics that we can talk about in live. Now, one thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to also be going live inside the groups. Now, this is a live that you're getting free for now. Only for now, okay? For a limited time offer, these are free. But inside the groups, there will be times that we will go live, but not as widely as we are now. It will only be for select people because we can only maintain, 10, 15 people in the groups. But we're going to be going live. So join the groups, get in there, start a community in your city, and let's make this movement move. All right? God bless you guys. It's so good to see you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Take care.